it wasn't all terrible.
Mm-hmm.
90% of it was terrible. And that's my truth, whether anyone likes it or not.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Loving Life with Court. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Alan Lazaros with us. Alan, thank you so much for being on the show.
Gratitude first, and I like to start and end with gratitude.
Beautiful.
You are so incredibly welcome. Thank you for having me on the show, because I started listening to podcasts 9 years ago.
Okay.
And they really helped me reorient my life in a much more constructive direction. And I used to hear these eloquent speakers who seemed to have it all figured out. And now I sound like one of those. Even though I don't have it all figured out, I definitely have a lot more figured out than I did back then.
Of course.
And so thank you for having me. I'm not just saying this. It is actually a dream come true to be able to speak into other people's lives. That at one point was just a dream. So thank you.
Of course. Well, thank you. Very kind words, and that resonates with me as well. I can completely relate with that, the opportunity to share your wisdom with others. So let's just dive right in today. You are very transparent with your audience about the adversity that you've endured throughout your life. Can you explain how you took some of your darkest moments and really made a sense of purpose for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So to provide context, I'm going to be 36. I joked with you earlier. I said I'm hoping to hit puberty at 36. For those of you on YouTube, I look very, very young. I'm going to try to condense almost 36 years into sort of 5 minutes here. Okay. So bear with me. I'm going to go pretty quickly. Now, the first thing to understand before I do that is that I did not have any idea what was happening at the time. It's only in hindsight, after sort of rewatching the movie of my own life. I've since started doing therapy in my 30s, and I've really reassessed my life over and over and over again. My trauma, my past, my abandonment, all the different stuff. And so it's in hindsight that it's very, very clear. So I didn't have this figured out. So if you're out there right now and you think, wow, he has it all figured out, don't think that, because I used to think that when I listened to podcasts, and in reality, it's just a reassessment. Okay, so 2 years old, father was 28, passed away in a car accident. My mom was 31. I had an older sister who was 6, and definitely born into an adverse situation. So he was the breadwinner. My mom was the stay-at-home mom. And when he passed away, my mom didn't really know what she was going to do. Single mother trying to raise 2 kids on her own. I had a stepfather from age 3 to 14. And my real last name is actually McCorkle. So Lazaros, as you had asked me how to pronounce it, is actually a very Greek last name. And so people that are of Greek background, they look at me and they go, Lazaros? Because I am blonde hair, blue eye, not a hair on me. It took me 35 years to get the facial hair you're seeing right here. But ultimately, my real last name is McCorkle, so I'm actually Irish, German, Scottish, Polish, I believe. But my birth father, John McCorkle, was from a big Irish Catholic family. It was Jim, Joe, John, Jane, Joan, Jeanette. 6 kids, and he was one of 6. And so when my stepfather came into the picture from age 3 to 14, we sort of became the Lazaroses, so we weren't really associating much with the McCorkles. So that's the first family. My stepdad left when I was 14, and this was the hardest year of my life in hindsight. Didn't realize this until my 30s, but stepfather leaves at 14. He gets the apartment building and the yacht. We get the house and the dog. He takes his entire extended family with him, and I have yet to see a single one of them. Okay. I've spoken to my stepfather on Facebook Messenger a little bit, but I haven't seen him or anyone since 14. Now, that same year, my sister moves out. That same year, when I was 14, freshman in high school, my mom gets in a fight with my Aunt Sandy, her sister Sandy, and my Aunt Sandy ostracizes us from her side of the family. So again, I didn't know any different, because adversity was kind of, I don't want to say all I knew, but there was a tremendous amount of adversity in the beginning of my life, and I didn't know any different. So I kind of lost 3 families by the time I'm 14. And again, I didn't really get that. Like, that didn't fully click until I was in my 30s. And when I was doing therapy, it's, what do you think the abandonment challenges were with that? The abandonment issues, all this stuff. So there's 4 trauma responses fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Fawn is the one most people don't know. That was the one that I unconsciously chose, and I became this social coward who, I'm a computer engineer, and my mathematical brain is excessive and obsessive, and I'm calculated in everything. And unfortunately, that's the truest part of my nature, but I kind of hid it away when I was around other people, because when a girl says, hey, do I look fat in this? And you say yes at level 6 out of 10, that doesn't really go over very well as an engineer, even though my brain does actually say that, right? And so I kind of exiled this true part of me, and socially I became this kid who wanted to fit in. But my trauma response behind the scenes when I was alone was always fight. It was, okay, lost 3 families by the time I'm 14. There is no trust fund. There is no dad. There is no big, bright future here. So if it's going to be, it's up to me. So my trauma response when I was alone behind the scenes always was aim higher, work harder, get smarter. Aim higher, work harder, get smarter. Aim higher, work harder, get smarter. And I'm still running that, let's be honest. So I did the only thing I knew how to do, which was I got straight A's through all of high school. I got 189 in honors English. Miss Desilets, how dare you. But luckily it was a weighted class because it was honors. So you needed a 95 or above GPA for all report cards, all 16 report cards of high school, 4 report cards per year, 4 years. And it's behind me. It's called the President's Award. It's signed by George W. Bush. Because when my stepdad left, he took 90% of the income with him. And I went from, I can't wait to go to WPI, my dream college, one of the best engineering colleges in the world, to it's $50,000 a year. And this is back then. Even if I do get in, I don't know how I'm going to go. So I was the obnoxious kid at the award ceremony that just kept going up over and over and over again. And I got tons of scholarships, tons of financial aid. I end up going to become a computer engineer. I get my master's in business, and then I'm off to the races. I work for a bunch of different tech companies, iRobots, Sensata Technologies, Lens Americas, Tyco Safety Products, all these different tech companies. Lived in LA for a short time, which was terrible, by the way. But anyway, so sorry for anyone who's in LA. My bad. I was in the Hollywood area, and it's not great, in my opinion. But anyways, so I was off to the races. I went from 65 to 85, 85 to 105, 105 to 125, and I peaked at around 180K a year at a company called Cognex. I started an inside sales engineering team, and then I got promoted to outside sales engineering. I managed Vermont, Western Massachusetts, and Connecticut. I always have to close my eyes to look at the map. And I essentially sold industrial automation equipment into big manufacturing facilities, mostly in Connecticut, but Vermont and Western Mass as well. So anyways, that's when I got in my car accident. So I'm 26 years old. I drink too much and too often. I have high school friends and college friends and corporate friends, and I'm definitely everything for everyone, nothing for myself. I'm definitely lost, but pretending not to be. And I'm definitely less lost than most, so it seems like I'm found because I make all this money. I'm so used to being poor. I was pretty broke through high school and college, so I didn't have high expenses. I bought a 2004 Volkswagen Passat for $5,000 cash. I had $84,000 worth of college debt paid off in a single year. I invested $150,000 in a Vanguard investment account, stocks and tech companies and all stuff. And my rent was $500 because me and my girlfriend Courtney lived on a little lake. It was a nice place, and we split the rent. I mean, my expenses were just so low, so I just was like, okay, wealth is the answer. I'm just going to get super wealthy. Then I get in my car accident. I'm 26. I'm up in New Hampshire. I end up on the wrong side of the road. I was supposed to yield, and I didn't. And I look up from the GPS, and I see the brightest lights I'd ever seen in front of me. 2 things saved my life. Number 1, I thought it was a Mack truck. It wasn't a Mack truck. It was a lift-kitted pickup truck. Number 2, I was driving a 2004 Volkswagen Passat, and the Volkswagen was the safest car ever. I used to call this car the tank. It was a German-engineered steel trap of a car. The whole front end was completely smashed in, but the frame stayed, and the airbags worked.
Wow.
So me and my little cousin, second cousin, the only person actually to come back from my mom's side, he was 17, still kind of invincibility complex, didn't think anything of it, was tweeting about it. But for me, this was my quarter-life existential crisis. I'm 26 years old. My dad died in a car when he was 28, and I've seen pictures of his car. And I've seen pictures of my car. They don't look very different. So for me, this was just the ultimate facing of mortality, the ultimate metaphorical phoenix burn down, rise anew from the ashes. And I was filled with regret. I was filled with all the existential questions of what was the point? Did my life matter? Did I make good choices? Is this what I really want to do with my life? All that stuff. And so that was almost 10 years ago. In November, it'll be 10 years ago, which is wild. And for me, it's obvious now in hindsight. We all go through these 4 sort of buckets, and I'll end with this. I know I promised you 5 minutes, it's probably been 10.
No, take your time.
The first bucket is unsuccessful and unfulfilled, and that, truth be told, is where we all start. I remember I was a cart kid and a busboy at a golf course. I was miserable, I was unfulfilled, and I was definitely unsuccessful. Then I became successful and unfulfilled. I was rising. I was a 1% global earner, almost $200,000 US per year. It's global, not US, because US is higher than that. But I was very, very successful, but I was deeply unfulfilled. Then I flipped the script after the car accident. I went from professional development, resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, job, to, okay, now I'm going to start my own company. It's called Alan Lazaros LLC, what you'll never learn in school, but desperately need to know. I was going to bring personal development to the school system, which was the worst idea ever. Didn't work at all, especially with that tagline. I was trying to get speeches at high schools and colleges. Way to go, bro. Didn't work. It kind of worked. But anyways, so then I go broke. Then I'm happy, healthy, productive. I'm a fitness coach, fitness competitor, fitness model. I do 42 photo shoots. I have many fitness content online. But I go broke. I'm not doing that well successfully. So now I'm fulfilled as hell, but I'm unsuccessful. And now here I am 10 years later, and I can finally say over the last few years, so I started a little podcast called Conversations Change Lives. My business partner, Kevin, had a podcast called Hyperconscious Podcast. He was on your show. So Kevin, shout out to Kev for any of your listeners who met Kev. And he was my first guest. I was his first guest. We teamed up, had the worst podcast title of all time, which was the Conversations Change Lives meets Hyperconscious Podcast. And then eventually we went all in on Hyperconscious, change the way you think, change the way you act, change the way you live. And then 500, 600, maybe 700 episodes later, we rebranded to what's now known as Next Level University. And now we're heard in 175 countries. We have 1,830 episodes now, I want to say. And we have a 20-person team and all this crazy stuff. So now we're both successful and fulfilled. And if you can honestly say that you've gotten to a place in your life where you want your future to be an amplified version of what it already is, that means you are finally in that 4th bucket, which is successful and fulfilled. But the truth is, the hard truth, most people never get to that 4th bucket. Because pre-car accident, I was professionally developed, and I was improvement-oriented, and I was achievement-oriented, but I wasn't self-improvement-oriented. I wasn't personal growth-oriented. I wasn't personal development-oriented. So then I flipped the script, went all the way past broke, and I was focused entirely on self-improvement. And so now I've become obsessed with both fulfillment and success, professional development and personal development. And so now my job, my life, my career, my mission is to help other people really become ambidextrous in both.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all of that. What a journey. It sounds like you've had a really pivotal turning point. And what I really take from that is kind of along your journey. I think, myself being 25, in our 20s, there's so much pressure to figure everything out. Yeah, and especially for a lot of my audience who is, females in their 20s. And I think what we don't realize is that the times where we hit our lows is part of figuring things out and knowing okay, this is part of your path. Because now you being at 36, you can look back and maybe those times that were darker moments were actually the most pivotal moments that you've had in your life to become who you are today.
When you are in the dark hole, this is the saying that I often use, and I hope it lands. I don't know if it does. We'll see. The dark holes that you find yourself in, the skills and tools and contemplation and lessons and awareness necessary to climb out of those dark holes are also what builds skyscrapers.
Hit.
Okay, nice. All right, so thank you for that. So that's the thing that I find interesting is when we're in the dark hole, if you can muster the self-belief and the courage to contemplate yourself, contemplate others, contemplate the world, learn from it, grow from it, double down on whatever, if you can find a way to get bigger, better, stronger through that adversity, you can then go do things other people can't because of that adversity. And one of the really practical things that I used to be too much of a coward to say, quite frankly, is my childhood was... I want to make this as clear as possible in case anyone from my childhood is listening. It wasn't all terrible. 90% of it was terrible. And that's my truth, whether anyone likes it or not. It was really, really, really painful. And I haven't even shared a thousandth of it, quite frankly. And there was some really good things too, I get it. That said, now that I'm older, because of what I did with that adversity, people say adversity is your advantage, and I think that that's true if you have self-belief. If you don't have self-belief and you have a fixed mindset, adversity is just adversity. If you do have self-belief and a growth mindset and the humility to seek help, adversity can become so much more. And so for me, not every time, but most of the time, it made me bigger, brighter, and smarter and stronger because of what I did with it. And in hindsight, it's very obvious now when I do see people from my past that I have a huge advantage. And I used to not share that because I was such a coward. But the truth is, some people don't have the emotional, spiritual muscle that I developed during those early years. And it's so obvious. I joke with Kev because I did a marathon on a 3 days notice once, and it was pretty terrible, but I didn't do a good job by any means. At the beginning, I crushed it. The half marathon was easy, but by the end, I was The Walking Dead, basically. But ultimately, I said, Kev, you think some marathon's going to take me down? Like, the pain of that marathon is nothing compared to the pain that I experienced as a kid. And so if you want to develop grit, it is going to come through adversity, and there's two types of adversity. The first type is the adversity that life throws at you. I didn't want my dad to die at 2. I didn't want my stepdad to leave. I didn't want to lose 3 families by the time I'm 14. I didn't want all of these negative things to happen. I didn't choose that. So that's the adversity life throws at you. Some of us have higher frequency, intensity, density, duration of adversity. We're all going to face adversity one way or another, some of us more than others. I happen to be on the higher end of that statistical spectrum. But then there's the second type of adversity, which is the adversity that comes as an inevitable byproduct of setting and aiming at high goals in life. The moment you have a big dream to be an astronaut or to be in the NBA or to be a podcaster or to start a business, you now are going to go face tremendous adversity because climbing that metaphorical mountain that gets higher as you climb it is going to force you to face parts of yourself you never anticipated. It's going to force you to face fears you never faced. It's going to force you to develop courage and vulnerability and skills that you never could have had otherwise. And so those are the two types of adversity. You need both because they both help you grow. And when you grow, you can contribute more. And when you contribute more, you can become more profitable. And it feeds on itself. But ultimately, I didn't know this, but I kind of had both for the last 35 years. And so I've become this weird, esoteric, smart, semi-gifted, ridiculously high grit dude who looks around sometimes and wonders why more people aren't reaching their potential. And ironically, paradoxically, metaphorically, it's my job to help others reach their potential because that's really what I care about most. And so, yeah, your pain does become your purpose if you're paying attention.
Of course. I was actually building off of what you just touched on. I was having a conversation about that with my husband the other day. And like, you can teach so much, right? Like if someone's, you can teach mindset, you can teach growth, but something that I really struggle with trying to teach others is the concept of resilience, like being able, the choice to take a certain path. Like you can either go down this path and fall into self-pity and fall into, the poor me, why did this happen to me? Or you can take what happened to you and grow from it. And what is your take on that?
Yeah, the resilience and grit piece is so unreasonably necessary. One time I was on a podcast, and when you tell people that aren't podcasters that you have 1,830 episodes, they don't think anything of it. They go, whoop-de-doo, Basil.
That's amazing.
But if you tell a podcaster, they go, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then they think, well, you mean micro content, like 20-minute episodes or like 5 minutes of episodes, 1 minute episodes. No. All of them, I think our average episode length is 30 plus minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day, a podcast episode. This one podcaster asked me one time, they said, seriously, how did you do that? That sounds impossible. And I playfully said, massive pain and suffering. Now, when I playfully say that, I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek, but there's truth underneath it, which is Kevin and I are going to record 3 episodes after this. Whether I want to or not, we're doing that. And I think that a lot of people, what they want in life, they want to live on the beach in a mansion. They want to drive their dream car. They want their amazing, magnificent, intimate relationship. They want time freedom and to make their own schedule and to run their own businesses and all this different stuff. But you're never going to amplify the pros of something while you're afraid of the cons. And the cons are the part that people don't show you on social media. Mm-hmm. So 1,830 episodes sounds awesome, and it is awesome, but it's been nothing short of massively painful to actually do that. There have been times at 9 o'clock at night when we don't know what we want to talk about, where we have to conjure up something relevant to our listeners. And so Emilia and I, we started a fitness challenge over 2.5 years ago. And the goal, I told her, I said, I want to beat my old best. And this is, again, bringing back to grit and resilience. And I said, I want to see if I can do 4 months in a row without missing a day. My old best was 4 months. I want to beat it. And so she said, I'll do it with you. I said, awesome. So we picked a half hour a day. Soccer counts, basketball counts, walking the dog counts, weight training counts, swimming counts, biking counts. It has to be just 30 minutes of exercise minimum per day. And you can't miss. And my old best was 4 months. So we passed the 4-month mark, and it was like, okay, let's see if we can get a year. And then we passed the year mark, and we're driving to the garage after the gym. And I said, today's a year. And she said, what do you mean? I said, we've done a full year of exercise. We haven't missed. And she's like, oh, cool. And I said, what now? I think it was now what? And she turns to me and she says, let's do this forever. And I had a mini panic attack. And the reason why is I said, sweetheart, I'm not going to say I'm going to do it. I know what this means. Like, is it possible to exercise for 30 minutes a day, every day for the rest of our life? Yes. But I know what that means. It's easy to say it. And I said, if I say it, I can't not do it. So are we actually doing this, or are you being playful? She said, I've always wanted to. Let's do it. So that was 1.5 years ago. So we are 2.5 years in. And we actually do 40 minutes a day now, which is wild. And it's been, thank you so much. Thank you. And I don't say it to brag about us. I say it because without grit and resilience, that would be impossible. Mm-hmm. There was a time we were at a place called the Chateau up in New Hampshire, and we call it the Shitto because that place sucked. It was like a $400 funeral home, right? $400 per night.
Oh my God.
It was not good. It was not good. So anyways, so it was 11:30 at night. We're watching a movie. We had a long day, and we realized, oh, we haven't exercised. Oh my God. It was freezing cold last winter, and we were out in our coats in the parking lot, walking, holding hands together. And it was so bad. She used to sail D1, so she's used to that cold weather. Mm-hmm. And D1 in college, from Providence College, so it's cold in the winter in Providence. Mm-hmm. And so she was no big deal, but I'm sitting there freezing like, this is the worst thing ever. This is terrible. The last thing I wanted to do was go walk out in the freezing cold at 11:30 at night when we're on a trip. But the truth is, the promises you make to yourself and keep for yourself, if you had a friend who broke as many promises to you as you've broken to yourself, how much are you going to value that friendship? Someone who always says, yeah, I'll be there, and then they're never there. Yeah, I'll show up, and they never show up. You have to show up for yourself when no one's watching, because that's how you build trust with yourself. That's how you build self-respect and self-worth and self-discipline and self-acceptance and self-love. You want to know what real self-love is?
I was just going to say that.
Real self-love is making and keeping and honoring the promises and boundaries that you set.
Yeah.
And to me, the 30 minutes a day, even if walking my dog counts, now it's 40, that is an investment in the self-love bank account every single time we do it. And the truth is a couple things. I would not be able to do it without Emilia. That's the truth. I don't feel like I would have done it without Emilia. Is it possible? Yes. I definitely wouldn't have done it, because the accountability partner with my beautiful girlfriend, future wife, and I say future wife and everyone's like, oh, congratulations. We're not engaged yet. We're just intending.
You just know.
But anyway, so we have each other. That's one of the things, because you got to go underneath the iceberg. How is that possible? Yeah. We have each other. We made sure that everything counts. So as long as it's moving our body, hiking counts. If it was just weight training and you had to go to a gym, it would have been hard to get up at 11:30 at night at the chateau, and that walk wouldn't have counted. So you have to set yourself up to be able to honor the promises you make. And if you do that consistently, you will love yourself and you'll be so fulfilled, and then you'll lose all your friends because they'll think you're arrogant buttheads.
Of course. I'm not actually, but no, that really inspired me to start moving more often, because, like, sharing that story is just, I might ask my husband for the next month to move with me every day for 30 minutes. I understand, though, I resonate with that accountability partner. When you have someone there with you, it's easier to show up. And even going back to that point where you were talking about, like, how showing up for yourself helps self-love. And whenever I'm talking to someone about, like, who wants to learn about self-love or how to love yourself, I'll always say, show up for yourself. And if they're like, oh, well, like this and that, and this is difficult, and I have troubles with this, or my kids are that, and I'll say, well, decrease your expectations. If, and it's that simple. Like, if you want to start moving your body and you're saying, well, every day I'm going to go to the gym for 1 hour, at least 5 days a week, all week, or whatever it is, I'll say,
it's a good way to break the consistency.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, no, instead, just move your body for 5 minutes. Or if you want to eat healthier, make 1 meal a day that fuels your body. Like, just decreasing your expectations. And like you said, when you're able to do those things where you're showing up for yourself, and when you decrease your expectations, when you meet those expectations or even go above them, that self-confidence, that self-love, it just continues to grow.
100%. And I think it takes humility to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to start with 10 minutes, and then I'm going to bump to 15, and then I'm going to bump to 20, and then I'm going to bump to 25. It takes humility to start small, because when we hit January 1st and everyone's doing New Year's Eve, it doesn't sound cool to say, most people are, I'm going to change everything. I'm going to transform. I'm going to set these New Year's resolutions. I'm going to set the world on fire. And then 2-3 weeks in, you can't sustain it. But the person who had the humility to say, I'm going to start with 10 minutes a day, and then I'm going to bump it to 15, and then I'm going to bump it to 20. The tortoise always wins. The hare is arrogant, and the tortoise is humble, and the tortoise always wins. And I think being the tortoise is really important. Now, I seem very arrogant to people, but underneath it all, I realized that I built self-belief by starting small and keeping the promises that I made to myself. And when you do that, you eventually can set huge expectations and actually meet them because of the self-efficacy. In psychology, they call it self-efficacy that you've developed. And there's 2 types of confidence, by the way. There's external achievement confidence, which I have a lot of. And then there's internal confidence in who you are, which I didn't start to develop much until my 30s. And I think I'm working on that. But I think one is self-belief, which is I can build the castle. The other one is self-worth, which is I deserve to live there. And I'm going to honor and protect the castle. And I'm not going to let my friends come and spill beer on the carpets, type of thing. And so for me, the self-belief was that always was there.
Of course.
Don't struggle with self-doubt when it comes to achievement. I just don't. It is what it is. The self-worth, though, oh my goodness. I mean, I was such a coward. I mean, socially, I just never spoke up. I never called anyone out for anything. I was such a coward. So half the stuff I've said on this interview, I couldn't have said when I was in my 20s, because I would have been too scared to actually own who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people don't like type A superachievers who believe in themselves a lot. I get it. But I also realize that if I want to help the people who do want to crush it, I'm going to have to be showing up as the version of me that is inspiring. And I realized this, and this is a side tangent, but I realized how much of a coward I was when I was in my early 20s. And I finally came to the conclusion, because I didn't want anyone to feel bad about themselves. That's really what it comes down to. Because when I was really, okay, so I've exercised every day for 2.5 years. That can really make someone feel bad about themselves if I say it wrong.
Mm.
But I realized that if you cannot inspire others without also triggering envy. And so I would spend my life trying not to trigger anyone because I was afraid of lash out or being villainized or being called arrogant or whatever, or losing my friends. When in reality, if I want to help people, I have to inspire, motivate, and educate. And I can't do that if I'm not leading by example.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kev used to say, you're going to be the most in shape and most articulate speaker living under a bridge, man. You need to start showcasing some of the results that you've been able to create. And that's why I wanted him to be the front runner. It's, Kev, you be the face of the brand, because I want to be behind the scenes making it happen.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually I had to overcome that, and I realized that it's all just conditioning from my childhood of just kind of being bullied.
Of course. Yeah. Oh, I can resonate with that. The imposter syndrome that you start to feel, and the fear of success is just another level. I feel like I am working through that myself right now. I always thought that it was the fear of failure. Like I was like, when I make it, what if it all crumbles apart? And you think that that's the fear of failure, but it's really just the fear of success, and that self-sabotaging, believing you're not worth it. And it all starts and stems to that love that you have for yourself and what you believe that you deserve. And I think yeah, thank you. And a big goal that I'm working towards is like really breaking those blockages that I have that make me, like, I'm deserving of an abundance of finances. I'm deserving of an abundance of love from the people that surround me. And I'm deserving of setting boundaries with others, even if they don't like it. Knowing that the peace that I'm cultivating for myself, I freaking deserve it. Nice. And you deserve it. We all deserve it. But it's not till you get to that point. For me, it wasn't until I realized how many things were broken in my life that I started to realize that this is not what I deserve.
Courtney, what you're referring to there, and is so powerful, is it wasn't a self-belief problem. It was a self-worth problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I think some people have inflated self-worth, and they are entitled, and they think they deserve things by default.
Yeah.
That is what I call spoiled brat syndrome. I don't think that you have that. I really don't. As a matter of fact, if you did, you and I wouldn't get along well, because I'm the opposite. I'm earn it, grind. But there are people that have low self-worth that even they're afraid of success because socially I'm just going to say this. The more successful you become in any area, if your peers are insecure in that area, they will react negatively.
Yeah.
Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Some of them will fight against you. Some of them will fawn and appease and admire. Some of them will run away and avoid you, and some of them will freeze and disassociate. But none of those things feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Being in great shape, I went from skinny fat, 160 pound, drank too much and too often, shell of my current self, to after that car accident, I went all in on fitness, and I won fitness shows. One fitness show. I did 3, and I came in 5th, then 1st, then 4th. Came in arrogant, came in 5th, then I got humbled, I came in 1st, and then I came in arrogant again and got 4th.
But you did it.
Seems to be a pattern.
You went for it.
But when I was in that good a shape, I thought, okay, well, I'm virtuous. I quit drinking. I quit all drugs. I quit pornography. I quit all things. I'm the most virtuous, best version of myself. I thought my friends were going to like me more.
Mm-hmm.
Courtney, that is not true at all.
Mm-hmm.
You become a bigger mirror.
Yeah.
There's no truth to, as you improve yourself, you will be treated better. That's not true. I thought it was. I was so naive. You actually get treated worse. It's so weird. I now realize most people are very insecure about their intelligence, very insecure about their fitness and their body, very insecure about their goals and dreams or lack thereof, very insecure about their self-confidence. And so when you become more self-confident in your ability to achieve, when you become more competent and courageous, and when you become more, it triggers the insecurities of people around you even more. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the energetic boundaries and self-worth to really respect yourself and honor your boundaries, you unfortunately will let Trojan horses into the castle to rip your heart out. And I'm not kidding. Please, please, please don't do that. Because I thought being a virtuous, wonderful person with pure intentions trying to help everyone was a good thing. And it is a very dangerous thing if you're naive like I was. So you have to be very, very careful of the entitled, unstable, manipulative people that will tear you down to feel better about themselves.
Oh, of course, of course. And it wasn't until I started, listening to every podcast possible that I realized exactly what you're saying is, succeeding in silence is something that I live by. Like, I don't tell anybody what I'm doing, what I'm working towards until it comes into fruition, because I have too many people that have thrown their swords at me when I didn't fucking ask for those swords.
I know.
And, put their limiting beliefs. Like, even myself, I can resonate with that weight. Like, weight is a big thing, big jealousy. Like, I was 250 pounds. I lost 100 pounds.
You were?
And the people accused me of doing drugs and I wasn't doing it a healthy way. I had no right to be showing other people that. I was being fat phobic. Like, you just get all of these things thrown at you. Me, for myself, I was like, oh my gosh, I figured out how to heal my body, and I just want to tell everybody how I did it.
I know, and you're so sweet trying to do it. Oh, isn't it brutal? It's so bad.
Yeah.
I felt the same way. I went on this huge transformation, and I'm telling you, I joke, but I feel like I cried for 2 years.
Yeah.
After that car accident, all the people I thought were my friends, they treated me so poorly.
Mm-hmm.
It's alarming how poorly they treat. Oh, you're a bodybuilder now?
Yeah. You have to let go
you're
of so
podcaster now?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
But they like the old version.
Mm-hmm. Well, because you're closer to them, right? Sorry, I was just going to say, the people that, I always think to myself, when someone calls me crazy, it's just because they haven't done it. When someone says I'm out of my mind, well, just wait till I succeed, and you're going to say that you supported me the entire time.
Yeah, that happens.
Right?
That happens. So, Courtney, I'm a little farther along, and some people reach out and they say, I always knew you could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And by the way, this is actually really quite funny, but also deeply painful. I don't need you to believe in me now.
Mm-hmm.
We made it now.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it ironic? When I needed belief and support, it was back then.
Yeah.
Now that I'm getting all this belief and support, listen, I'm more success. It was harder in the beginning than it is now. I mean, that's the irony, is you have to get through that pain and suffering. For anyone out there who does want to achieve their goals and dreams, it is through a lot of pain.
Yeah.
It takes tremendous courage. It takes so much courage.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, because I have 29 people on my coaching roster right now. And I've been coaching for 7 years. So fitness coaching and mindset coaching and life coaching and business consulting and all this different stuff. I'm a business coach now, primarily business. And I also coach relationships. We've been coaching relationships, my girlfriend and I, for 4 years now. And we have another podcast called Conscious Couples and all this. But ultimately, 29 people I'm coaching right now, and hundreds over the years. What you eventually realize is that courage is such a big part of the game. The problem is most people are afraid of something different. So the majority of the population, from my understanding, my statistical global sample set of all the people I've coached, are their deep core wound, their deep limiting belief is, I'm not good enough. I'm not capable enough. I'm not smart enough. Some sort of not enoughness.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who are out there who resonate with that, that might be your limiting belief. It's not mine, and by the way, you know that, and you have this weird part of you that's like, ooh, not like me. I don't know if I like him. Okay, so Kevin does have that, and I don't.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I have is, am I a good person? The one that I have is, why am I treated so unfairly and so unjustly? The one that I have is what's called unlovable. Am I lovable? Because if you're a weird, esoteric, semi-gifted super achiever who is on the statistical far end of pretty much everything, people know you're not like them, so they treat you poorly because you trigger their insecurities. So if I know that I'm enough, and your core wound is that you feel not enough, I'm going to trigger you on accident, and then I'm going to be insecure about your insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to dim myself to try to belong with you, and then I can't keep that up because I have to grow toward my goals and dreams, and then eventually that whole thing's going to snap, and then you're going to lash out at me, and then I'm going to feel even worse about myself, and then my trauma response to that is going to be work harder, get smarter, aim higher, and then that's going to make the whole process even worse. So I didn't even notice this until my 30s, and I was like, I used to think there was merit to all these lash outs, but I worked on the things that everyone was lashing out about. So why are people still treating me so poorly? And I realized, and Kevin said this, he said, dude, you check too many boxes. You can't be smart and athletic and good looking and I said, dude, I was a little prepubescent, overlooked by every girl guy back in the day. I don't know why I get so mistreated. He said, it makes sense because you sound so arrogant to people, when in reality you're just really confident and they don't believe in themselves. And so I'm starting to get it. But if you are out there and Beyonce, everyone loves her when they're in the concert, but trust me, her family lashes out at her and her friends lash out at her, and the Destiny's Child probably don't like her. And you got to understand that being empowered is a good thing from a distance. Mm-hmm. But people that are in your inner circle, it's very scary for them, and you have to be very careful to hold your energetic boundaries. And if you are afraid to not be good enough, your courage, to the two types of courage, you need competence courage. Competence courage is apply to the job, do the podcast, do the thing, believe in yourself more, you can do it, apply to the job, do the thing, do the resume, the cover letter, get the LinkedIn. That I don't have a problem with. That's all fine. If you're on my end, the unlovable, you need social courage. Okay. When someone says, well, Alan, these days, the only way to make money is in real estate. And your brain goes, that's got to be the dumbest thing I've ever
Incorrect.
heard. Yeah. If that was ever not true, it would be in the 21st century. Have you heard of tech?
Yeah.
Technology. I'm a computer engineer. All the tech companies are winning. Have you considered that? But I just don't say anything because I'm such a coward. Because socially, I don't have courage. So the new me says, have you ever considered the biggest companies in the world tend to be technology companies? And I try to say it less condescending than that. But ultimately, I actually would shield bump. I would actually have the courage to say, actually, that's pretty inaccurate based on my understanding, and then we would have a debate. But in the past, I would just pretend that I didn't hear it. I would fawn. I would leave the room being seen as less than. I would be energetically dominated, and then wonder why they didn't want to work with me as a business coach. Because I don't need the credit, but I do need the credibility. Mm-hmm. And so you can't spend your whole life being energetically dominated, because you need to be able to speak up for yourself. And so most people struggle with competence courage. They're afraid to do the thing and fail. Some of us, I would say you to some extent for sure, are afraid of social courage. That's why you post on TikTok things you don't post on Facebook. And the reason why is because your aunts and uncles and judgmental relatives are on Facebook. And so you told yourself a story, you're courageous. No, you're not until you post that stuff on Facebook. Because trust me, your whole family's going to have something to say about it. And you're going to have to shield bump them or cower for 20 years like I did.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Thank you for sharing that. I know our time is slowly coming or quickly coming to an end, but, I've really appreciated everything that you've shared with us, being very vulnerable and sharing your story. So thank you so very much. I always close. I told you before we clicked record today that I always close with the same question with my guests, and that is, what does loving your life, what does a life that is loved look like for you?
I am a math thinker, computer engineer, so forgive me for this, but I have a formula.
Okay.
Loving my life means 3 things. Okay. Number 1 is maximizing my own unique potential.
Okay.
The key word there is unique. The second thing is maximizing my own unique greatest level of contribution. Mm-hmm. And the third is maximizing my unique quality of life. So some of us don't want to work 80-hour weeks like me. That's your unique quality of life. This is my unique quality of life. But ultimately, it comes down to growth, impact, and quality of life. And I think that loving your life is about reaching your potential, helping others do the same, and finding a way to make that profitable so that you can consistently climb the metaphorical mountain that gets higher as you climb it, so that you can get better, smarter, and you can give more, do more, and contribute more. I think it is. I think it's about growth. I think loving your life is about growing to your full potential and helping others do the same. And I think that all of us, to some extent, are on a mission where that is the most fulfilling thing you can do. And while it is different flavors, I say we're all selling ice cream, but it's all different flavors. Maybe I'm Rocky Road and you're bubble gum. But we're both trying to grow and contribute in some meaningful way for a higher quality of life collectively, and I think that's what loving your life is, yeah.
Beautiful. That was very, like you said, mathematical. I've never had an equation answer before, so I love that. But thank you again, Alan. It was such a pleasure to have you on the show. Before we hop off, can you just share with the listeners where they can find you, how you can help them? I know you can help them in many, many ways, just very quickly. And for the listeners, I'll also to make sure to put all the information in the show notes below.
Courtney, I started with gratitude. I want to end with gratitude. First and foremost, you losing 100 pounds and transforming yourself. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Please don't. I hope that you share that more despite the naysayers.
Oh, thank you.
Because that's so inspiring.
Thanks.
Okay. As for where you can find me, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, and I just got on TikTok recently, although I'm not on there much. But I've got some podcast clips and stuff on there. I also have a website called nextleveluniverse.com. We have a book club. We have a group coaching program we do every quarter. We have a journal called the Dreamliner that's on there that I have right here. And we have all kinds of cool stuff on there. Bunch of stuff.
Beautiful.
Also, our podcast is called Next Level University. It's holistic self-improvement, health, wealth, life, and love in your pocket from anywhere on the planet, completely free, 1% improvement per day. Self-improvement is, I think, the solution to all of our collective suffering. I think that if we all sweep our own porch, the whole world will be clean type of thing. Lead by example. So that's Next Level University. So, yeah, the website, social media, and the podcast are the best ways to reach me. So thank you, Courtney. I really appreciate it.
Of course. It was such a pleasure, Alan. And I will leave you all with this, a friendly reminder to not only be kind to others, but also to your beautiful, amazing self. I will see you on the next episode.